What's the most fun fighting game to watch? In my opinion, I mean, obviously that's going to vary dramatically based on what you think is fun to watch. Assuming you don't know what's going on. I feel like if you're just wanting to look at the pretty colors, you know? So, okay, it's a question of you don't know what's going on, but do you want to know what's going on, right? Because Dragon Ball, I think, is really cool if you just care about the animations. But since Dragon Ball is a team game that's 3v3, you will have no idea what's happening at all, right? You won't know anything. You won't know whose characters are who. You won't know who's winning. You won't know who's losing. But if you just want to watch, like, you know, the... right? And the... then Dragon Ball is really, really fun to watch. If you want to watch a game where you can follow the match, even if you have never played the game before, Tekken is really good, right? Tekken is a really good choice. It's exciting. It's pretty. The stages look cool. The music is great. The commentators for Tekken are like the best in the business, you know? So if you're watching like a Tekken tournament, then the commentary is probably fire. And Tekken is super simple. It's just two people punching each other, right? There's no special moves. There's no crazy animations. There's no teleporting or anything. So it will be very obvious, like, who's winning and who's losing. But again, it depends on what you're looking for in your viewing experience. I always love watching Tekken, and I don't play Tekken, right? But yeah, I always have a good time watching Tekken when it's on. But I think, in general, fighting games are incredibly watchable as a spectator. I think that's one of the biggest perks that fighting games have over traditional esports, right? Like, my mom can watch me play fighting games in a tournament, and she understands what's happening. My mom, not exactly an esports person, but she's able to watch me play Soul Calibur or whatever, and she gets it, you know? Same with my dad and the rest of my family. They watch me compete sometimes. Whereas, if I was playing, like, Counter-Strike or League, it's really not, you know, like, if you are not familiar with the game, you're going to have no idea what you're looking at, and you're not going to enjoy it, right? I think fighting games, even the more complicated fighting games, are a lot more watchable than other esports, and I think that's one of the big benefits that that fighting games have over those games. Dota 2, man, I've tried to understand how Dota works. I can't do it. Like, I feel like I should, you know? Like, I'm an esports guy. I'm going to tournaments. Like, I feel like since Dota is one of the pillars of esports and has been for many years, I should understand, like, like, when the international happens, I would like to be able to watch it. But every time, it's just like, Counter-Strike? Counter-Strike is easy if you are, like, first-person shooter guy. You know what I mean? If you understand first-person shooters, then Counter-Strike is probably pretty easy to watch. But imagine if you don't play first-person shooters. Imagine if you don't play video games. Not only is it going to be super disorienting, the view itself, but they constantly are switching back and forth perspectives, right? So you can't even track one person. They're going to be bouncing back and forth. This person, this person, this person, you know, this person with the AWP looking down the hallway, this person creeping around the corner with the bomb. Then they'll switch to the overhead view so you can see all the people running around. You'll switch to the other team to see the same fight from a different perspective. If you're not, like, fluent to some degree in video games, you're going to have no idea what's happening. I mean, I agree that it's still easier to watch than, like, League or Dota, but it's definitely not nearly as watchable as fighting games are, in my opinion. Even the most complicated fighting games, I think, are pretty easy to watch in comparison because they're like life bars, right? Like, you've got life bars, so even if you have no idea what's happening anywhere else, you can just look at the top of the screen and it will tell you who's winning, which is more than you could get from like StarCraft or something, you know, where sometimes not even the players know who's winning, right? Marvel is definitely on the hard to read end. I agree. But even if, like, if you're watching Marvel, even if you have no idea what's happening, you kind of know what it means. Like, even if you don't know how someone is getting hit, you know that, like, someone is getting hit and their life is going down, and you can look at the life bars to see who is losing, right? Like, you can see who is getting hit, even if you have no idea how the hits are happening. But yeah, I think that that team games are definitely the hardest to watch in the fighting game genre. But also the most fun to watch if you don't care about what you're looking at and you just want to see cool stuff happen. I think team games are the most fun to watch. But if you actually want to be able to, like, get invested in the match, then I would say Tekken. Street Fighter is also fine, you know, but Tekken is probably the best. If you just want to watch it as a spectator and follow along with the game. Yeah, that's true. Tekken 7 is a great example of turning a fighting game into a spectator sport without making it suck, right? Like, there were a ton of fighting games that came out that were intended to be, like, more, like, casual, but the result was just that they sort of ruined the game. Tekken 7 was a really good example of a fighting game developer making it more fun for casuals and for spectators without compromising the competitive experience for the players. I think they did a really good job with that. What, you wanted to see character variety? That makes sense. I think probably that's why so many people who don't watch Melee think it's boring. Because it's just the same characters and the same stages over and over and over again. Which is probably why non-Melee players don't really like watching Melee very much. Which makes sense. I get that. Yeah, that's probably also where Lethal Hits came from, I agree. I mean, Soul Calibur obviously has tons of that stuff, right? With Reversal Edge as well, clearly being a spectator thing. And honestly, you can't say that they failed, right? Like, for as much as everyone hates Reversal Edge, you can't tell me that when it does happen in a big tournament match, that it's not like... You know what I mean? Like, you can't tell me that you don't get hype when winners finals of a tournament is happening and they Reversal Edge each other. Soul Calibur 6 is not big. Well, first of all, I said they didn't fail to... I meant they didn't fail to, like, achieve the desired function of Reversal Edge. Not that it was a good idea overall, but they did what they were trying to do, right? That's what I mean. Second of all, Soul Calibur is big. Are you kidding me? Soul Calibur 6? I mean, it's not as big as, like, Smash or Street Fighter, but compared to previous Soul Calibur games, Soul Calibur 6 is thriving. Soul Calibur 6 is probably the biggest a Soul Calibur game has ever been since Soul Calibur 2. And even then, I imagine that Soul Calibur 6 might have a bigger community than Soul Calibur 2 did, just because the fighting game community as a whole was so much smaller then. Like, you can tell that they wanted to, like, they knew that this was their only chance, so they wanted to make it accessible, and they played it safe with Soul Calibur 6, right? That's the same reason that they threw out all of the characters from Soul Calibur 5, you know? We don't have what's her name, or what's his name, or what's her name. We have all of the classic Soul Calibur characters instead. Soul Calibur 6 launched with all but, like, 2 of the Soul Calibur 2 roster. It was like everybody but Hwang and Lizard Man, I think. And now we have Lizard Man. Or now we have Hwang. We still don't have Lizard Man. We're still waiting. I mean, they only put in 2 new characters, right? They only added in Gro and Aswell. Everyone else was, like, a classic returning character. And it was really an all-star cast, if you think about it, right? There was no one in the Soul Calibur 6 lineup that was not, like, a great choice, right? Like, all of the people you would expect to be there were there. It was not like a Street Fighter 5 situation where they, like, Street Fighter 5 launched without a lot of the characters that you would expect to be automatically in every Street Fighter game. Like, no Guile in Street Fighter 5's launch. no Akuma in Street Fighter V's launch. Some of the Street Fighter 2 characters didn't make it in until like 4 years later, right? It took us 3 years to get Sagat. It took us like 4 years to get Honda. So they and they added in a lot more new characters in Street Fighter V, right? They added in Rashid, Laura, Fang. Yeah, Guile is not a base game character. That's what I said. That he was not in the game when it launched. Yeah, it was ridiculous. But the point is, they didn't do that with Soul Calibur because they knew that they couldn't, right? They knew that they couldn't take the risk. They had to be as safe as possible. So they put in, not only did they put in the classic characters, but they gave them their classic costumes, right? They didn't even redesign any of the characters. They gave everybody their, like, most iconic look.